Welcome back to the Behind the Wealth Show. Roger Abel here with Elias. Eli, taxes are coming up.
Yeah.
Excited?
For taxes? No.
Might never end.
No. Before we get into that, do we have time for me to share a story?
Sure.
Okay.
Is it good?
I don't know, but something that's been on my mind. I guess we'll see if it's good or not.
I like stories. You know me.
So, and this is this is an inflation story, which I'm starting to think inflation is like just a kick in the shin that just keeps on kicking you. So I went grocery shopping the other day, which I do not typically do. Maddie, my wife, typically does all the groceries, but there was some stuff I knew I needed, and then she put a little list together. And wow, that was a mistake. I was not very happy after I left the store with the grocery bill the other day. So I was really kind of operating unaware of how expensive all the food has gotten. And then, I got a cart full of groceries, and $170 later, I'm walking out, and I just was really reminded how I was like, man, what a poke in the eye. Inflation has just been terrible.
I'm trying to figure out how you got out for $170.
It was half a cart.
I was going to say, you didn't get very much.
Yeah, it was a 65% full cart. I don't know.
Here's what's ironic about that is a couple years ago, you go to the grocery store, and the outside aisles were all the expensive stuff. And what are the outside aisles? Fruits, vegetables, meat, dairy, right? That's primarily, if you go to a grocery store, the outside aisles are your fruit, vegetables, meat, dairy, the expensive stuff. The inside is where you can go bargain shop, right? 29-cent ramen noodles, 39-cent macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese is $2. You go to the grocery store. Now I do self-checkout, I opt for the best service at the grocery store, which means I check myself out. You get that? The best service is self.
Yeah, you just do it yourself.
Just do it yourself.
Yeah.
$3.99, $5.99, $5.99, because it spits out the price, and everything is $3 to $5. There's nothing expensive. Did you buy any fruit?
Fruit. No, got some vegetables. I don't think any fruit. No fruit was on the list.
Red raspberries for maybe like 2 cups. What do you think red raspberries for 2 cups of red raspberries?
$10.
$8, $7.90, anywhere from $7 to $8. My 4-year-old loves raspberries. They're actually a super healthy vegetable, fruit.
But
dude, not for $8.
Raspberries are a vegetable now?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Is avocado a fruit or a vegetable?
Okay, isn't anything with a seed technically a fruit? And there's a big seed in it. So
you're super smart. My wife is like, well, avocado's a vegetable or a fruit. I'm like, no, it's a vegetable. She's like, dude, it's a fruit.
I think tomatoes are technically a fruit.
Yeah, it's a fruit.
But
I thought it was a vegetable. I'm like, this is healthy. It seems like, it's not sweet, so it seems like it should be in the vegetable family.
Right, yeah.
But here's the other ironic thing about inflation. Everybody thinks it's over, but what if it's not?
That was one thing I was thinking about coming home from the grocery store is if this doesn't stop, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
So let me ask you a question. Everybody all but guaranteed a recession, right? There wasn't a recession. Now everybody's saying inflation's over. Fed's going to cut. What if they don't?
I personally don't really buy all that. I don't see how, and it's very possible I'm wrong, but I don't know, I feel like if we have too aggressive of rate cuts now, inflation's not going to stop. It's going to get worse.
Yeah. So I talked with another gal who's retired from doing this business. And we talked about 70s and 80s. Why? We're just a society of everything just is going to happen quickly. Inflation was here for like a decade. And we think it's here for 18 months now.
Right, and everyone wants an immediate solution. It doesn't work that way.
Although I did hear, is it Jeffrey Gunlach? I think it was Jeffrey Gunlach was talking about, intuitively, we all think if they lower rates, it's going to be a home buying frenzy, right? Like, oh man, everybody's going to go buy a house because now they can afford it. What that also means is everybody's going to list their house. So maybe it actually has a reverse effect on house prices. We all think housing will go up if inflation drops and money gets easier, right? If interest rates go down, we believe that people buy more homes. But
the supply of homes for sale would have to skyrocket.
But it probably will. Because I think what ate up a lot of the supply was investors, one, and two, people buying second properties.
Maybe.
Well, okay, I'll use myself. My wife would like a new house. I'm not moving out of my house that I have a great interest rate on. There's a lot of people like me. There's people like you. Your wife would like a new house. You're not giving up your 3% interest rate to go to 7%.
No.
But if rates get down in the low 5s or upper 4s.
Yeah, people will say good enough.
Good enough. All the homes will list, which, yeah, it might cause some inflation. But if there's a giant amount of homes that flood the market for sale because they're moving, there's more competition, which arguably could make home prices flatten or fall. It's just kind of a counterpoint that I hadn't really thought about. And I think one of the things people listen to the show are going to recognize, our goal is to provide both sides. We don't ever want to be biased one way or another. So what I like to do is bring to the attention things that could happen that maybe I haven't thought about.
Well, that's a good idea. And yeah, that's really been on my mind ever since I was at the store was, wow, there's no way around it. Just groceries are expensive.
I grocery shop. I do all the grocery shop in our house for the most part.
I know. You're much more, you know way more about the grocery store than I do.
I bought a marinade the other day, $5. Lowry's marinade, $4.99. I'm like, this can't be right. $5 to let the meat soak in there for an hour, and then you throw it away.
For a Lowry's marinade.
Zero nutritional value. But here's the thing. Even the Hy-Vee brand was $4. I'm like, this is like some soy sauce and some oil and some spices. Like olive oil hasn't gone up that much.
It hasn't?
No. Cereal? Did you buy any cereal?
No.
$6 for a box of cereal. $6.
Yeah, that's terrible. And a lot of
yogurt,
those cereals
$6
aren't
for a
for
4-pack. I mean, it's crazy, but that's why people are struggling. Just it's starting to take a toll on everyday households, and it's honestly probably why we're seeing inflation start to moderate. The numbers show it's moderating. Well, you have to make a choice. You're going to spend it on Chick-fil-A. You're going to go to the grocery store.
I don't know if it matters at this point.
Oh, Chick-fil-A is like $35. I'll give you here's how out of tune I am to stuff. I was talking to our friend the other day, Brad, and he said something about going to McDonald's. I'm like, well, that's going to be like $7. He goes, no. I go, don't they have the dollar menu? He's like, the dollar menu doesn't exist anymore. He's like, everything's like $3. You been to McDonald's?
Yeah. So yes, I have. Within the last 2 years, I've been one time, and it was the closest. I didn't eat all day. I was on my way to a meeting, and it's the closest restaurant to the meeting location. I think I was going to an officials meeting or something. And so I stopped at the McDonald's, and I just ordered a meal because I just didn't want to think about anything. I just, okay, there's the quarter pounder, the number 7, whatever that one is. And I think it was like $13. And I was thinking I should have just went across if I had time, I'm better off going across the street to that bar over there and getting a much better cheeseburger than going through the drive-through.
Yeah, I know.
So, that's the last time I ate. I know I spent over $10 for a sandwich, some French fries, and a Diet Coke or something. Seemed like a lot.
It's crazy. But inflation's moderating in other ways. You know what I saw the other day? There's a car manufacturer offering a $9,000 rebate.
Oh, really?
When was the last time you saw a $9,000 rebate?
Don't know, but that means deals are coming back in the car market, which would be a good thing. That'll help price of cars go down.
I think the price of cars are already coming down. Not new cars, but I think used cars, that's already coming back into parity, I believe. Here's what I do know is going to keep increasing the more money we have.
What?
Your tax bill.
Well, yeah, you can. Well, remember, remember.
Right, if you make $20,000 more, you're just going to pay more in taxes.
Right, and that was one of. Remember, there was an argument about inflating the debt away. How, like, with enough inflation, you can kind of behind the back math raise taxes without having to raise tax rates to inflate all the debt away.
At some point, but the other thing is you might be able to do that, but that means you'd have to keep interest rates low because we're paying interest on those balances.
Yes.
So, yeah, you could, but that would be – I don't think the Fed would let that happen.
Yeah, it's an economic theory that's out there. But,
is it economic or is it TikTok?
No, I don't remember the exact. No, it was from a real source of
real source of
information, not a TikTok.
Well, I bring up the tax thing because tax season's actually, well, for me it's a year-round thing, but for a lot of people it's just getting started, and their first day they can file is January 29th. And there was an article on CNBC, and I thought it was kind of interesting. It's what you need to know about tax filing, and there's a line in here that I thought was great. Our transformation efforts take hold. As our transformation efforts take hold, taxpayers will continue to see marked improvement in IRS operations in the upcoming filing season. I had to call the IRS 2 months ago. Do you know how long I was on hold?
And 60 minutes.
No. 2 hours and 45 minutes. 2 hours and 40.
Did you even remember what you called for by the time they got on?
I was just working here, ding, 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 ding. And I talked to the lady, and she had to transfer me. Like, I can't wait another 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow.
2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yep.
But the transformation efforts are taking hold here. I thought that was ironic.
Yeah, they're making it easier to prove that you paid the correct amount in taxes.
And this is just a clerical thing I needed some information on. Like, I was looking for a document. 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Well, the government's got to get their portion, too. Everyone's got to get their portion, and the government's going to get theirs.
Well, here's what's also ironic. The IRS expects to receive 128 million tax returns. The average refund will be $3,167. What's the float on that?
I have no idea.
So there's 128 tax returns, and I don't know if it's per person, but if the average is $3,167 per tax return, that means people are floating the IRS $400 billion. Can that be right?
What was this?
128 million tax returns. The average refund's $3,167.
Yeah, that
comes out to be $405 billion. So people are giving the IRS $405 billion in free money.
Jeez, that seems
no
like
interest.
A lot.
That's like $2 billion in interest. Individual U.S. taxpayers gave up so they could get a refund. Because we hear, get a refund. I don't want to owe. I want to get a refund. Why? You should owe as long as you don't have a penalty. It'd be better off to owe versus, you don't want a penalty, but if you owe $500, what's the downside to that?
There is none.
There's none. The downside to lending $3,000 is you gave away $150 to the government for nothing.
Yeah, I mean but that would just require that would require understanding how it works and what you're actually doing, and very few people actually make money on their tax return.
Yeah, no one's making money. Like I understand people think it's like, oh man, I'm getting this money back. I made money. No, you didn't. You gave them too much. You overpaid. No one will overpay on their mortgage, but sure they'll overpay the IRS. It'd make tons of sense. Yeah, but
back when I was a young man serving and waiting on tables at Red Lobster, tax return season was a good time to be on the schedule because we were always really busy and people were generous with their tips because they got that extra $3,000.
So like May 5th was great for you guys?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As soon as tax returns start coming in.
That's funny. I never really thought about that.
Oh, yeah. It was all, you can always make good money once everyone has their tax return. They're going out and blowing it.
I actually know a lot of people that'll take that tax return money if they get it. They're getting it. They know they're getting it. They don't want to adjust their withholding because that's their kind of forced savings vehicle. So they'll take that money and they'll make like a contribution to a Roth or an IRA. So I guess that's like good behavior because they probably wouldn't have saved the additional money for themselves. But
sure,
it kind of makes me think like, that's kind of a money mistake, really.
Which is overpaying in taxes?
Yeah, I mean, do you think? I kind of think.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I don't think you should I don't think you should overpay. My intention is to be as close to even as possible every year.
We don't want to underpay because then you have penalties and stuff. But if we can just be close to zero, but if you're getting $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 back in a tax return, you got to like have a serious look in the mirror and be like, why am I doing this? What's the economic benefit? And when interest rates at the bank was zero, okay, well, that's reasonable, but they're not zero today.
No, they're absolutely not. And most money mistakes are like small, right? We talk about that a lot, how it's not typically kind of what derails people's situation is not always big purchases, but it's the small nickel and dime stuff over time, right? They're not always, I'm behind because I maybe bought a car that was too expensive. It's typically smaller items that you can make adjustments to be successful.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? The financial professionals at Premier Investments and Wealth Management are the guides you've been looking for. Picture this, a financial plan tailored exclusively to you. Our team of experienced professionals will work closely with you to understand your aspirations and develop a personalized roadmap to get you there. Whether you're dreaming of retirement, buying a new home, or sending your kids to college, we've got the tools to give you confidence in your financial life. We'll help you navigate saving and investing, retirement income, and tax strategies. Our job is not just about making money. It's about helping our clients make smart choices. We'll provide you with the tools and knowledge to confidently steer your financial ship toward a brighter future. Are you ready to embark on your financial journey with confidence? Visit www.btwealthshow.com or click the link in the description of this podcast. Your financial future awaits.
Well, and if I think about money mistakes, there's really 4 primary money mistakes I think people can make. There's more than this, but there's 4 that kind of come to mind that we could talk about with people today. And some of it's big stuff, some of it's small stuff. But really, the easiest money mistake to avoid is not investing enough. Most people don't invest enough. Ironically, this is on our outline. Last night, I was sitting with my wife and we were doing some planning, so I pulled up the Morningstar, calculator and did some hypotheticals. And my wife said, "Can we save more?" I said, "Yeah, if you're going to buy less."
How'd that go?
I think she wants to save more. I mean, we're doing a good job, but she's like, "Can we do more?" I said, "Sure."
There you go. You can always save a little bit more, and it's more important. It's more important to keep, right? Saving. I mean, what are you really doing when you're saving money? You're keeping those dollars for yourself. And most people who are successful with money, they figured out a way to keep as many dollars as they can to themselves.
Well, you know what's ironic about how we got to that conversation?
I don't know how you got there.
I was running a Morningstar analysis. I didn't invite her into the conversation. She just said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm working on some retirement stuff, just running some analysis." She goes, "Oh, what's it look like?" "Oh, this." "Oh, that's cool. That'd be good." She goes, "But can I told her how much we were saving?" Because she's pretty uninvolved. She goes, "Can we save more?" I said, "Well, yeah, we could. We got to spend less." "Okay, well, let's save more." "Oh, okay." That's how I took a pretty uninvolved person in the process and got them involved. It wasn't, "Hey, we need to have this conversation." It was all by accident. And I'm privy to some tools most people don't have.
Yeah.
I got the financial planning stuff and I got Morningstar right there. And, I'm mapping out what's it look like at this age, what's it look like at this age, and just some planning. But I got her involved and, hey, yeah, we could save a little more if you want to do that.
Would that have gone different had you said, "Hey, I want to talk about this"?
If I would have approached the conversation, we need to spend less and save more. The end result Well, no, we're not doing that because I'm saving a bunch already. It doesn't really matter. But now she's a little motivated because she sees what the numbers look like. It's hard to motivate.
Effective approach.
It's hard to motivate people to say, yep, live less life now so you can have it later on in the future. And I think there's a balance. It's a balance between saving and enjoying your life, right? There really is.
I think so.
I mean, there's a certain age in life that you're going to hit. And the amount of money you think you need, the amount of money you're probably going to spend are two different things. Nobody that's 45, 50, 60 years old thinks you're going to slow down. Eventually, you're going to slow down. There's no question about it. And the question I'd ask people, would you rather had a little more lifestyle early on versus when you're 80? There's nothing wrong with being 80, but I know what you can do from a health and stamina standpoint at that point in time is totally different than 55. And if you think about what we can do for people from a planning standpoint, we can quantify what you need to do to be successful in retirement, but we also can say, hey, maybe you're way above track. Maybe you could live a little bit more life now and you'll still be great financially in retirement. That's really what the plan does. It's not magic. It just gives confidence to people.
Yeah, I just had a conversation around this idea with a client who's very responsible, a very good saver, doing all the right things. The house is now too small for the family of 5. The neighborhoods they want to live in it's really motivated by the schools that are available. And what this particular family was struggling with was if they make this home purchase, they may not be able to save more like they want to, but they're actually currently saving enough for the planning that we've done so far. And then talking through that, and some of it is, especially for younger family, sometimes you just got to get through the situation and do what you can. I mean, kids are little, life's getting more expensive and all this. Well, they're still able to save a little bit more. I think what their target, they're not going to hit. But then we talked about, well, let's get closer to the target, and then next year we can get a little bit closer to the target, right? We break it down to smaller steps, but you don't have to, in this situation, they're doing all the things necessary to be successful long term. They're just not able to save exactly what they want, which, okay, that's a good problem to have. You want to be a better saver, so that's a good problem to have, but you also got to live your life and get through the different phases of your life too.
We've actually done a lot of that because I did the same exact exercise with some young people who, what you'll find in most situations, you've got one person super saver, the other person is trying to get more lifestyle. And you got to find a happy medium. And what that financial plan can do for a person in their 30s and 40s is exactly what you said. Hey, you're on track. You could afford to have a little more lifestyle. When I say lifestyle, it's not going out and taking car loans. It's like, oh yeah, maybe we need to do a family trip. Maybe we need to get a bigger house. The one case I can remember, it was like a family of 5 in a 3-bedroom house. Like they were sharing rooms, and these people are well set for retirement. And they actually wanted me to show them what they could afford to purchase in a house. And I'm like, you should probably do this. I mean, you're living in the house you've been in for 15 years and you've outgrown it. Some people outgrow their house. Some people don't. But that's really what that plan can do for a young family, young couple, is just provide confidence that even if they increase their lifestyle and have a little lifestyle creep, everything's okay from the savings and retirement side. Elias, the second money mistake that's super easy to fix, emergency fund, not having a fully funded emergency fund. I actually was listening to a Dave Ramsey show the other day, and the people were running through their financial situation, and they had drawn their emergency fund down to 3 months from 6. And Dave goes, well, what did you use the money for? And she goes, well, my husband lost his job. He hasn't been employed in a year. He was expecting the response of, well, we refinished the basement or we squandered it. their 6-month emergency fund lasted a year while their husband was out of work.
So they're using it for what it's supposed to be used for. Okay.
So that's why the emergency fund was important. If it wasn't fully funded, or if they didn't have one, husband's out of work, what happens to everything else?
Just blows up.
It's going on credit cards. I'm sure it's going on credit cards. So money mistake that's super easy to fix is have a fully funded emergency account. It's really, at least 3 months. We prefer you to be at 6 months. And one thing people should think about, if they figured out how much they needed in their emergency fund 5 years ago, probably not fully funded today.
Well, yeah, factor in inflation and it's not fully funded.
There you go.
And the other thing with emergencies always happen at the most inconvenient time. So we just took a trip to go see some friends and family out of state. And guess what was not working properly when we got home? Our water heater.
You told me that.
So, right. So you just spend $2,000 to go on this nice vacation, get home. Now the plumber needs $2,700 to put the new water heater in. It would have been great if the water heater would have broke 3 months from now when we didn't just get back from vacation. But is that how it works?
No, never.
It doesn't work like that. It works when you get back. It's the most inconvenient time, and now you got to shell out some more money. But thankfully, we have an emergency fund, so we paid for it, and now we have this great, new, efficient water heater that works great.
Well,
our other one was 20 years old. We got our money's worth. We got our money's worth out of it.
Well, think about this. Your emergency fund kept Murphy out of your business. You know what Murphy is?
Yeah, it's when you're not prepared.
Yeah, Murphy's Law. You spent the money on the trip, then you had the furnace break. Something else is going to happen in the next 90 days. It's going to cost money. Almost.
It did. I went to the grocery store.
Yeah,
that was our third.
Went to the grocery store. That was the third thing. So let's make sure you have an emergency fund. 3, not reviewing insurance policies. And we don't talk about insurance a lot on this, but really your insurance policy, you should be going, you don't have to do this every year, but you should go through it every couple of years and make sure you have the coverages that you want to have covered. Now, I think a lot of people during the floods of 08 and 09 here didn't have the coverage that they thought they had. So review your coverage and make sure it's what you think you have, because if you have a problem, you want to be properly insured. It's why you buy that. Make sure you have enough life insurance. I mean, if you don't know how much, 12 to 10 times your income is what you probably should have if you have kids.
Yeah, probably, and that's good guidance. And that's especially younger people bring up life insurance, and you have to have some level of protection on your income, because it's really life insurance from a risk management perspective is income replacement. And if something were to happen, now statistically, most people are going to live beyond their kids graduating and being adults and all that stuff. But no one knows, any accident can happen, anything can happen. You need something there to protect your family if a tragedy were to occur like that.
And nobody wants to buy life insurance.
No.
I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah,
I don't want to buy
either.
it. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want people to think we're different, like we really enjoy it. No, we dislike paying for life insurance as much as the general public.
Right.
But it's a necessary evil in life, and it actually provides a really good planning tool if used correctly. The problem with most life insurance, it's vastly missold, in our opinion.
Yes,
and
I agree with that.
If you're looking for help with insurance, we'd be happy to review your insurance, let you know what our kind of take is on it. Go to btwellshow.com. We actually include that as part of our financial planning. We had a tool in that financial planning that kind of quantifies how much you need. And it's not the blanket advice, right? This year's kind of challenging blanket advice on our show. Blanket advice is 10 to 12 times. I can tell you of a case, Elias, that I worked with an individual. He's an executive. And if I did just blanket advice, he'd have bought a lot of insurance. And he bought it for 20 years because that's standard what people do, right? A lot of people say, well, you're 48 years old. You probably want a 20-year term insurance policy. What the software actually did was quantified his risk through different periods of time. So if something happens today, you need to have 8 million. I'm making numbers up. It was around these numbers. In 10 years, if something happens, you need 4 million. And then in 15, I think it's 15 years, if something happens, you need 2. So his risk was the next 15 years. So how he structured is we did a 10-year policy for like 5 million. And then we did a 15-year policy for 2 because he had a little bit through his employer. But what it did, well, you did the underwriting on it. It saved him like $4,000 or $5,000 a year in premiums by not doing a $8 million 15-year term insurance. We broke it out into different segments to lower that premium. If we didn't do a financial plan, that's not how it would have been done. He'd have paid a lot of extra money for premiums that didn't need to be paid.
Right, and that's a right there. That's a risk management strategy that is unique and specific to that family. Right, that wasn't
it's
just
not blanket advice.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't generic advice. That's exactly what they needed to do to protect themselves.
But ironically, this individual makes about $900,000. Ironically, the number he needs today was around $8 million, 10 to 12%, or 10 to 12 times your income, roughly.
Right, but it wasn't 10 to 12 times his income for 15 years. Right.
That's why personalizing it and getting away from the blanket advice helps optimize your situation. And the last thing you should do, check your credit report regularly. With as prevalent as identity theft and credit card theft is, you got to check it a lot. I just had this happen to me 2 weeks ago. Went to a restaurant. I left my card there. I came back 2 hours later. They said they didn't have it. Ironically, they found it when I asked if they were stealing credit cards. Guess what happened 4 days later?
Well, I know what happened for it. You purchased
$4,000 to Napa Auto Parts in California.
Yeah, you're at the mechanic shop in California somehow.
Ironically, the one place I used it outside of regular purchases, and they said they didn't have it, but miraculously found it. I'm not going to mention names where it is, but how much of that stuff goes undetected on people's credit?
I'm sure all the time.
I mean, if they would have done $86 at Walmart, I'd have never known because I just paid that bill. Yeah. I only knew because Molly called me and she's like, hey, they didn't let this charge go through. I'm like, that's impossible. I doubted her. Well, then I went to buy something declined. So I called them like, well, you guys usually call me if there's fraud. Oh, we haven't got to it. I'm like, huh? And sure enough, someone had tried to use the card.
We haven't got to it. Wow.
I'm like, well, usually it's Capital One. Usually they send me a little alert. Hey, we believe there's fraud in your account. It's been flagged. Is this your purchase?
Yeah.
Which goes down another rabbit hole of what a disaster it is to have someone steal your information, because that was for the business, and literally every single automatic like payment that's set up on there, which is everything, Molly had to go reset up. And I'm still dealing with it.
Not fun.
So, Elias, as I mentioned, this year our goal is to just challenge blanket advice. And not that blanket advice is bad, just we believe personalized advice gets a more optimal outcome. And I don't think anybody could argue with that. There's nobody out there saying blanket advice is better than personalized advice.
I'm sure you can find someone that'll argue that with you, but
yeah,
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to argue that.
Guess who the people who are going to argue that with me are?
The TikTok financial celebrities.
It's the people who give blanket advice.
And the blanket advice givers.
Because they can't offer personalized advice. It's not how their business operates. Doesn't mean it's bad. But this week, what I want to talk about on challenging blanket advice is retirement calculators.
Okay.
And they are everywhere. I believe they can be a good start. But let's talk about what's wrong with them. Okay. What do you think the number one problem with retirement calculators is? And we probably can break these into like different categories, but what do you think the number one problem with retirement calculators are?
The number one problem, in my opinion, is the hardest thing to plan for in our business. And I believe that's the variance of returns, or another way of saying that is we don't know what the market's going to do, right? Over time, we believe it's going to continue higher, but in the next 12 months, is it going to go down 10% at one time and then back up 15? We don't know the order in which those things are going to happen. So in my opinion, that's the issue with most retirement calculators, is there's no way to factor the sequence of returns, variance, however you want to describe it.
Right. If I have 3 people that all average 8%, but they all started investing at different times, and they all invest $100,000, they are not all going to have the same amount of money, is basically what you're saying.
Correct.
Right? You don't get 8% every year. Some years you lose 15, some years you make 20, you average 8. Sequence of return. So I agree. That's the number one risk, is that most saving calculators you go to, it just says, hey, how much do you have today? How long will you invest? What's your rate of return? Okay, if you plug in 12% into the savings calculator, let's say the stock market's average that over time, you're never going to get that return because your account never went down in value. It just keeps compounding at 12% a year. It's not an accurate reflection. That's the number one problem with savings calculators. And that's when we do a financial plan.
Which those results are fun to look at. If you look at 12% return and your account never goes down, that looks great.
You want to know what I use for return if I'm using a savings calculator to try to account for the variance?
I would imagine 6 to 8%.
You got it, 6.
6?
Yeah. Because my goal with my planning is to be conservative, because I'm relaying this message to my partner. So what I don't want to do is say, hey, we should have X, and you have half of that money.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
So under promise, over deliver, never disappoint. That's how you should treat your spouse. With the person in your family who doesn't do this, don't paint the rosy picture, paint the bleak picture. If it's better, no one's complaining. So that's one problem. The second problem is, even if you went in, so right, you could go to Morningstar and say, hey, what have my investments done? If I had this exact mix, I own the S&P 500 and this value fund and this bond fund over the last 20 years, what would it have done? And it's going to give you a number. And what's the number all driven by?
The number in the Morningstar stuff, historical performance.
Historical performance.
What's happened in the past.
Which is accounting for variance.
Yes, that does.
So I ran one. You'll get a kick out of this. And this is where if there's an advisor selling you on the reason you should do business with them is because of performance, you should run away. Here's why. So I run this calculator. I'm 45. So what age do you think I used for retirement when I was running these calculations last night?
65.
There you go. 20 years. I actually used 21. I think it was 2003 is when I started. Pretty good picture. Pretty nice. Most people would be thrilled. Guess what I went and changed the date to?
2013?
1999.
99?
Yeah. I changed it to 2000. I take it back. 2000. So 3 more years. You'd think your results better.
Yeah, your starting points.
I started at the top of the market before it went down. If you think about 2003, the market was on the recovery. So I went and started my calculation right before a big downturn. It was actually less money.
How much less? Like in a percentage?
I don't remember.
Basis?
It wasn't a lot, but it was still less. But
right.
I wanted to see the impact. And part of the reason it worked out is because the contribution I'm making is big enough. It kind of made up for it in that down year. But I just didn't want to go see what's this rosy picture that I start at the bottom of the market.
That's what you should always do.
Yeah, if I could time it, it would be awesome. But those are some of the things you should look at. So someone's showing you a Morningstar report. That's past performance. It's likely not going to happen like that in the future. But the one thing a Morningstar does is it does account for the variance. So I would much rather like someone to go use a Morningstar analysis than plug into just a straight line savings calculator. And I think back to 2023, the investment mix I used, which are 2 real mutual funds, I won't mention which one, I want to say the rate of return was 10.33%. From 2023 till today was 10.33%. They were a growth fund and a I don't know, just a regular investment fund, we'll call it. I don't want to get too specific with it. But that's what we don't like about standard retirement calculators. It's not personalized.
No, it's not, and it's really just easy to paint a picture that's just too nice.
It's what
depending on the rate of return you assume, and I think I agree with everything you're saying. If you're going to do past performance, you should start in a year where the market was high right before a correction, and then do one starting at the bottom, because that's going to get you more dialed in on you're going to be somewhere in that range, right? That's going to give you a real picture of what's going to happen.
It's where we're armed with I can go do that at my house.
Well, yeah.
Right. So that's how I kind of base my decisions. We can do that for individuals too. I was doing it just to see the effect. What if I save 3 years longer, but during a bad market? That's it.
Yeah. Well, not everyone has access to a Morningstar workstation.
Well, it kind of comes down to the point of what we provide for people. We provide the ability to become even if somebody is knowledgeable about this, right? We talk about the 3 reasons people do business with advisors or hire an advisor: time, desire, knowledge. Some people have the time and desire. They might even have the knowledge, but know what they don't have? They don't have the software. Very few at-home people have the technology stack that we have here to do the things that we do.
I don't think anyone does.
I had a family I work with that came in 5 or 6 years ago. Husband, really intelligent, engineer, wrote a manual on how to price the health insurance for a major corporation. I'm like, he's smart. He looked at me halfway through the meeting, and he could clearly do all the manual calculations and all this stuff, right? He goes, I figured out what you can do for me. I go, okay, what is it? He goes, you can become all the technology that I can't do. I could do what you're doing, but it would take me hours of time. You can just go stroke the button and have the answer instantly for me.
There you go.
And that's why they became customers. Not that he didn't have the knowledge or the desire. He didn't have the time to do what I was actually doing.
And there's a lot of value in delegating your time.
I mean, we see it. People come with their spreadsheet. What's their spreadsheet always have? Rate of return. This is what I'm going to have. Okay, where's the variance? I mean, we work with a lot of engineering clients. There's a reason we work with lots of engineers, because we live in the statistical world. Business owners, same thing. They want to know that they're okay and just be on track. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for listening. I think we had a good show today. Elias, hopefully you can figure out how to get on a bargain at the grocery store this week, because I know you're going back. I know you gave
I'm
up.
a coupon clipper now. I'm going to figure out how to save money at now it's like a project and a challenge. How do you save money at the grocery store?
Well, you gave up chips and stuff in February, which was wildly received on Facebook.
Yeah, so someone sent me a message and it said chip-free February sounds like a ridiculous idea.
I think that was, I know who that was.
Okay.
If you're looking to start 2024 off right, you can reach us at btwellshow.com. We'll get you your one-page Premier Vision document, or you can click the link in the description to get started as well. I want to thank everybody for listening, and hopefully you tune in next week.